Almost 2 years have passed since Season 3 was released, and the biggest challenge of this show at the moment is not how our main characters will escape the town, but how the audience will remember all the tiny details that happened in the previous seasons. So in today's video, I will try my best to explain what we saw in the trailer, and some pieces of information you need to remember from past seasons in order to fully understand what is happening. The trailer starts with a double funeral, and based on how the last season ended, we can assume that one of those bodies belongs to Jim, who was killed by the man in yellow. This man in yellow is the same person who threatened Jim at the end of Season 1 through the radio communication. Based on everything we have seen so far, it seems like the man in yellow will be the main villain of this season, and maybe of the entire series. The second person is a character introduced this season, the pastor we can see here. It appears that he and his daughter, Sophia, arrived in town, and I believe that it was their car that crashed into the police building. Sophia would be an interesting new addition to the town's dynamic, because it seems like she might be the replacement for Father Khatri. You might remember how things seemed to go in a loop inside the From Village, with Tabitha and Jade being the reincarnations of the first parents who refused to sacrifice their children. Every person in the town has a role to play, and if that role isn't fulfilled, the town brings a replacement. Also, at the end of Season 3, after the man in yellow killed Jim, he said, "This next part is my favorite," suggesting that these events may have already happened before. But it seems like Sophia might play a bigger role than just being a replacement for Father Khatri. It appears that she could also have a potential relationship with Kenny, and if we are being honest, our poor boy deserves some happiness. Sophia could be the perfect anchor for Kenny to attach to. We also see the two of them together here, with Sophia holding flowers in her hand. This is why I am almost certain that the pastor is one of the two bodies, because if he were alive, he would be standing next to Sophia. Another interesting detail is how the crows appear during the burial, and based on everything we know about From, the crows are usually a sign of a bad omen. Moving forward, we see Boyd having a reflective moment at his wife's grave, a moment where he can be vulnerable. Boyd killed his wife after they arrived in town because Abby went mad and started shooting random people, believing that by doing so she would save everyone trapped there. With no other way of stopping her, Boyd shot Abby. We actually see some of these sequences in the trailer. Those two short clips with people running in fear and Boyd preparing to shoot are from Season 1, when we learn the truth about Boyd and Abby. We also hear Boyd say, "Something is different. I am changing, and I don't know if I like who I am becoming." And this line has many possible meanings. Last season, Boyd tortured Elgin to find out where Fatima was. Could he be referring to that? As Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who fights with monsters should see to it that he does not become a monster himself. And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." I believe this quote describes Boyd perfectly. A hero who has to do the dirty work for the good of the many. But if you stay on that path for too long, you might be changed forever. There is another possible meaning behind Boyd's dialogue. Many of you might remember that Boyd was infected by Martin in the tower, and he later passed that infection to Smiley, which, to everyone's surprise, killed the monster, something they initially thought was impossible. However, it is still unclear whether Boyd was cured, or if the infection is still lingering in his body. Boyd thinks he is starting to show signs of Parkinson's, the same disease his father suffered from. But what if the symptoms Boyd is experiencing are not Parkinson's at all, but the effects of that infection? One thing is clear, Boyd's journey is bound to become even more challenging, and we can see him suffering from severe visions. I believe these visions are similar to Julie's ability of story walking, because it appears that in that burst of sequences we can see both the past and the future. The past is represented by the sequence where he shoots Abby, while the future might be represented by the other moments we see, like Marielle being chained, the car crash, and the discovery of those scarecrows. Moving forward, we have the scene with Boyd, Donna, and Christy, where we hear Donna say, "Boyd, there are a lot of people who want to know what happened down there." What Donna is referring to is when Boyd followed the kimono lady who stole Fatima's baby and discovered that the baby had turned into Smiley. Now, if you were in Boyd's shoes, what would you do? Keep the secret and make everyone question and doubt you? Or tell the truth and make people completely lose hope? I don't know which option is worse. Boyd's actions are already being questioned, and his trust within the community has decreased dramatically. Meanwhile, the general mood in the town is extremely dark, with even Donna starting to lose hope, something we never thought we would see. So this is a tough choice for Boyd, a choice that might define his character and the lives of everyone in the town. Next up, we have Jade following a kid down the tunnels, and that kid isn't one of the children they usually see. It's different. So I'm curious about what led Jade to see that kid. Based on the clothing, we can assume the child is from their time period, and when I analyze this image closely, my hunch is that the child might actually be Jade when he was little. The hair looks somewhat similar. No matter the reason, we know Jade will get into some trouble because of this, since he ends up being captured by the monsters. The trailer continues with Julie saying to Tabitha, "Mom, where is Dad? Why isn't he back yet?" I strongly believe this scene is from the first episode of Season 4, before they learn that Jim is dead. This might surprise some of you because at the end of the last season, we saw Julie trying to save her dad from the man in yellow. But the Julie we saw at the end of the season is not the same Julie we see here. These are two different timeline versions. The Julie we saw at the end of Season 3 is from the future, where she has complete control over her story-walking ability. We even hear her say, "I need to change the story." This concept is explained by Ethan when he tells his sister that he can view the story at different moments, but without the ability to interact with the plot. And if we compare the two versions of Julie, there are clear differences between them, like the color of their hair. We also see some confirmation of this ability when Julie relives the first night Randall arrives in town. This scene is when they were trapped in the car at night, and who knows. Now that we are seeing things from Julie's point of view, we might discover more clues about what that place really is. Moving forward, we see Jade telling Tabitha that they need to talk, and they really do have a lot to talk about. I don't think they have properly had the time to digest everything they have learned. This connects with the message. Knowledge comes with a cost. With this warning, I believe our protagonists have just reached the next level, and the next major danger is the man in yellow, who can roam freely in the daylight. In the next shot, where we see people backpacking through the woods, we can spot Donna. I think this is Ellis and this is Ethan. Based on the fact that later we see Tabitha, Ethan, Donna, and Ellis being attacked by this Scarecrow monster, we can assume that in this scene they are heading toward the cabins they previously discovered in the forest. Actually, I think their plan might be to go even further. Maybe to the place where Boyd discovered the spider webs, or who knows. Maybe they're trying to reach the lighthouse and are camping for the night. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. What is that giant scarecrow monster, and how can it attack them inside the house? First of all, we already saw these scarecrows earlier in the trailer when people from the colony house dug them up from what looks like burned wheat. Based on the fact that this is Ellis here, and that we can see cauliflower in the background, I'm assuming this scene takes place on the farm near the colony house. Maybe this represents the next level of the game, and the people from the colony accidentally dug up these new monsters. As for how they are able to attack the house, I believe it is strongly connected to how Jade broke a totem to help Christy escape the bear trap. I think this Scarecrow monster is the same creature they heard in Season 3 during the first night they spent in the forest cabins. At that time, they were safe because the protection was still intact, but now that Jade destroyed that totem, the cabins might no longer be safe. Next, we see Victor and his dad digging up an old drawing made by Victor where we can see the man in yellow smiling. We know that Victor only draws things he has seen, and that he already survived one cycle. I have always believed that Victor is the key to solving everything, and the fact that we see him drawing the man in yellow could be proof that he already saw what would happen next. The real question is, will he be able to articulate his thoughts and memories? We can see the terrified look on his face when they discover the man in yellow's clothes in the woods. This brings us to one of the most interesting details we can speculate about based on this trailer. Why would the man in yellow need to throw away his clothes? I think I have a pretty good explanation for this. In the final part of the trailer, we see the man in yellow in what appears to be a process of transformation. Just look at how his body changes. In that scene, we can also spot his yellow clothes nearby, along with a large suitcase, the type of suitcase found in the underground tunnels. We can also see what appears to be yellow hair, strengthening the idea that he might be able to change forms. There is a very popular theory, which I somewhat agree with, although I'm not 100% convinced, that the Jim we see at the end of the trailer, the one Ethan is hugging, is not the real Jim, but actually the man in yellow transformed into Jim. We also need to remember an important detail about the show's producers. They are the same producers behind Lost. This is even mentioned in the trailer, and I believe it is intentional. In Lost, we had the smoke monster, also known as the Man in Black, who had the ability to transform into dead people in order to manipulate and torture the survivors on the island. Based on everything we know so far, the Man in Black from Lost seems very similar to the Man in Yellow from. The core concept might be the same, a monster that can transform into people you love in order to take advantage of its victims. Maybe the open suitcase contains personal items from Jim that help the Man in Yellow transform into him. One thing is certain, that briefcase is probably far more important than we originally thought. While all of this appears on the screen, we hear a dialogue from Marielle saying, "There is something ancient here, and it's feeding off our suffering." And it doesn't stop. This is a clear hint related to how the three of them, Marielle, Julie, and Randall, were chained in that tower. But the question is whether she is talking about the Man in Yellow or about something even more dangerous. Back in Season 2, when Boyd found Martin in the tower, Martin warned Boyd to leave before it was too late. Boyd assumed that Martin was talking about Smiley and the other monsters, but Martin told him that those monsters were actually the least significant danger, and that what was coming for him was much, much worse. Based on the connection between Martin and Marielle, and the fact that they were both chained in a similar way, I believe this is the exact ancient thing Marielle is referring to in the trailer. The trailer then continues with Boyd, Jade, and Ellis carrying a body inside the church, and I'm really curious about who that body belongs to. We can see people looking very curious here. Remember how I said earlier that the opinion about Boyd isn't very good anymore? Well, this scene will probably only make that reputation worse. I honestly don't know who that body belongs to. The most popular theory is that it's Jim, but I don't think that's true because in the scene where they lay the body down, we have two clues about the person. First, it appears that the body is tied with a rope around the feet. Second, it looks like he is wearing a blue shirt, and he appears to be married. Jim wasn't wearing blue when he died, so based on the shirt color, we can be fairly certain that this isn't Jim. Next, we see Randall and Julie going back to the tower ruins. This scene must be connected to Randall's ringing in the ears. Julie was cured after visiting the ruins, so maybe she told Randall about it and they decided to try the same thing. Or maybe there is something deeper happening here. We must remember that the two of them, together with Marielle, were tied up in the tower, and they share a unique bond with that place. There are even theories suggesting that Martin, the person Boyd saw in the tower, might actually be Randall from the future. We then hear another dialogue from Boyd saying, "We are losing. We are running out of time, and we still don't know the rules." He says this at the police station where we see a meeting taking place between him, Donna, Jade, Ellis, and Tabitha, the people who know the most about that place. We can also spot the Man in Yellow's clothes on the desk. So I'm guessing that this meeting takes place somewhere near the end of the season, and Boyd has every reason to be nervous. They are really losing. We can see two new types of monsters, and instead of making progress, they might actually be regressing. Yes, they learned about the children, but that only made things more dangerous. Another interesting detail is the season in which the story takes place. Back in Season 3, we saw that it was winter, but this time the weather seems warmer, and the trees are starting to blossom. This is important because Victor said that during all the time he spent there, the weather never changed. But now it's changing. Maybe the season's shifting is another clue that they are approaching the endgame. Another very interesting thing we saw in the trailer is the ghost apparition inside the Matthews house. But I don't think that ghost is dangerous. If you look at their reactions, they don't look scared, they looked curious. I believe that ghost might be there to help them, in the same way the boy in white did. Maybe that ghost is Jim. We know that it's possible for the souls of the dead to remain present in the town, because we saw Abby appearing in front of Boyd, or how the radio changed to play very specific music. Maybe Jim's soul remained behind to help his family escape that place. Then we see a ring falling onto the floor, with the infinity symbol carved into it. I'm really curious about this ring, because that symbol feels very specific for From. They are trapped in an infinite loop, so could that ring be one of the keys to solving this mystery? In the next frame with Boyd and Donna, we can see a very interesting drawing in the background. It doesn't look like Victor drew it, and the style is slightly different, especially the couple here who kind of resemble Ellis and Fatma. Under them, there's also a drawing of a tunnel. So could this represent the baby they had that was born in the underground tunnel? The baby that turned out to be Smiley? I just know that this drawing will probably be very important. I think you will all agree with me that Acosta is one of the most annoying characters in the show, and I was kind of surprised to see that she changed out of her police uniform. But she might change her clothes. Her attitude is still exactly the same. We saw a confrontation between her and Boyd in the trailer where Boyd stops the ambulance. In that scene, we can also see the spike strip used to stop the vehicle. So I'm thinking that Acosta stole the ambulance while trying to escape the town. Maybe Christy and Marielle were with her, but since this is a trailer, I'm more inclined to believe that the scene with the couple is there simply to mislead us. Another thing worth mentioning is the line shown in the trailer, "Become what you fear. Fear what you become." I believe this message is directly connected to Boyd, just like we discussed earlier in the analysis. I believe these are the most important details from the trailer that are worth analyzing. There were many very short sequences, but I don't think we can speculate too much about them, especially because trailers are often designed to mislead viewers. Trying to build theories around scenes that are less than a second long would probably be meaningless. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you found it useful, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm planning to dedicate the next few months to this TV series, and we have a lot to unpack. So make sure to stay up to date.